Hey, howdy, friends. It's Steve Depoe here with the Rose Realty Team with this week's real estate vlog for North Texas. Today, we're going to talk about simplifying the management of your rentals. Hey, assuming you have a couple of rentals out there, you're making passive income, you've done the right things in terms of buying rentals with equity from your primary residence, etc. Maybe you're using some retirement funds and you bought a couple of rentals, whatever, doesn't really matter. We want to talk about simplifying the management of your rentals, to make it easier on you as we kind of get up there in age. So we wondering, how do I simplify the rental properties, the management of my rental properties that I have, without losing control or without losing cash flow? So today I'm going to walk you through a couple of ideas that could help you, that could plant the seed, right, and make it easier and less stressful, which is what we want as we get older, and truly sustainable for the long haul. Before we get started, like I always like to do, we'd like you to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's at Moving to Dallas, Texas. There you'll have all the videos, all the vlogs that I've done over the last several years. I have close to 600 of them up there. And you'll have access to all of those. Plus, you'll have access to a second YouTube channel, which I call Texas Real Estate Questions. And in that on that particular YouTube channel, there are questions about there's little videos, a little shorter than these, which are like, what's a contingent offer? Can I sell a home with when I still have a mortgage? What are my HOA payments for? There's also another section within that same channel for my senior people, like how do I avoid capital gains? How do I set up my trust so that my children are taken care of fairly? We have ideas about if you have multiple properties, how do you then leave your assets to your children, so everybody's treated fairly. And many of these we suggest you bring in, family members or your financial planner or your accountant or something like that, because we should all have that conversation at the same time. So anyway, hey, look, at Moving to Dallas, Texas, or Texas Real Estate Questions. Like and subscribe to those. We really appreciate. We thank you for doing that, for supporting our channel, and also for obviously for supporting our real estate team. So let's get into it. So the first step is to shift or to delegate. So you can go out and find somebody that can handle the day-to-day management of your rental. That's usually called a property manager. Okay. Yes, it costs money. Yes, it costs, generally, I think what it does is cost about 1 month's rent per year. Okay. That doesn't mean you lose control or you lose any freedom because you're the boss. Okay. But what that does mean is that you won't have to handle the phone calls. You won't have to, get a phone call about the sink is clogged up, and then call the plumber. Okay. The property manager will do all of that. And you can put goals around that, saying, okay, property manager, you have to answer the phone within, answer the call or answer the issue within, 60 minutes or something like that. Okay. And so you can get that property manager and make sure that they understand the rules that you have, and you can delegate that responsibility. That takes the stress off of you, and that allows the property manager to manage it all without you having to worry about day to day. Standardize. Now, this is a good one that many of us kind of don't think of. Okay. Standardize your maintenance processes. Make a list of preferred vendors. So the people that you're probably going to mostly be dealing with are three of them. I know I have electrician on this, but you're probably going to be dealing with, more times than not, a plumber, somebody from HVAC, and landscaping. Okay. Now, There's two ways to handle this. Let's just say as an example, you didn't use the property manager kind of suggestion I made in the previous slide. You can give this list, say here, you can give this list to your tenant. Here's my preferred vendors, okay? Because if there's a pipe leak, okay, you don't want them to call you when you're out at the club or you're out playing golf or doing a show or something like that or traveling. Okay, you want that pipe leak taken care of immediately. So you could give your tenant these these maintenance people, okay, give them their numbers and say something happens, call them right away. Now you're going to be wondering whether, okay, so are they just going to be burning through my money and my cash? Give them the understanding that once we get the feedback from the professional, from the maintenance guy, then we're going to understand like sort of who's at fault. Perfect example. He calls a plumber. So the plumber's called because the drain in the kitchen is stopped up. Chances are likely that your tenant shoved some stuff down the garbage disposal and clogged it up. That's their bill. The tenant's going to pay for that. However, maybe you've got one where the toilet or the shower's leaking. Okay, that's probably a structural problem. That's a unit problem. That's probably your bill. Okay, and so you're going to talk to your plumber and say, okay, what happened? Help me understand what happened. He's going to tell you, they were trying to shove, a whole turkey down the garbage disposal, and then you're going to give them the bill. So next time you say, hey, the rent is due and utilities. Oh, plus you owe me another $300 because of that turkey you tried to shove down the garbage disposal. At the same time, if you did the property management thing, you could give your property manager, these are my preferred vendors, and then that standardizes everything. The professional, so the plumber knows the house and knows what could or could not go wrong, and that plumber's going to take care of you. Number one, probably give you a good price, give you good service, and be honest with you about what's going on. Next is cash flow tracking. Hey, so um, whether you're talking about a property manager or you're talking about you're doing it yourself, or maybe your son or daughter's doing it for you, whatever. There's consistent income tracking and documentation that you can employ. There are systems and software and those kinds of things that you can track your cash flow in, and you can ask the property manager to send you a monthly statement that summarizes the rent collected, the repairs that were made, and any upcoming needs. Okay. For example, on our house here, our primary residence, so it's a little bit different. We've got some chipping in our driveway out front, which was caused by putting down ice melt during the recent ice storms. And we've got to get that repaired. So if you had that on a rental property, then you could say, hey, I've got to get that fixed, and maybe I'll have somebody come out and fix it, in April. And so I'm going to have to then budget for that money, to spend it in April and not maybe not right away or put it off until October. But you're going to want to budget for that so that you know what expenses are coming up. So this cash flow tracking software, or it could even be an Excel spreadsheet, where that your property manager or that you track these expenses in a spreadsheet so that you know where you are, and you should say, hey, we made, we got to have a cash flow of, $2,000 this month because of these other expenses that we had, after the collection of the rent. Tenant criteria. So very interesting. So you refine your tenant criteria and communication. A reliable tenant always means fewer late payments, fewer complaints, and less headaches overall. What you could do is develop, and we can help you with that if you want, because I have one for our properties. You could develop a tenant criteria sheet, which basically tells any tenants that, hey, here's what we judge whether you're a good tenant or not. Okay. Now, if you're in a place outside of a 55 community, you don't have to worry about kids, for example. Okay. What kids can do is they can tend to cause excess wear and tear on the property. If they're a little bit older, for example, let's say if they're not toddlers, let's say they're, 6 or 8, it's going to be then they're going to be less wear and tear on the property. I'm talking basically inside is what I'm talking about. And you have a nice stable family. That's a criteria that you can go by. The couple has holding down good jobs and that kind of stuff. And so they're going to want to, maybe they moved from out of state and they're trying to find a good place to put down roots. Um, something like that are going to be more reliable. They're going to have their rent in on time, et cetera, et cetera. And so then you can judge one tenant versus another. You don't always get that choice. I mean, sometimes many times when you put your property on MLS, you list your house for rent. Oftentimes people just come in like onesies and twosies, and you don't have, four people that you're going to decide against, and so you kind of take what you get, But a good tenant criteria will help you, kind of smooth it out and let some of the headaches go away. So in summary, look, us older landlords can simplify our rentals inside of Denton County by delegating the management, tracking the income, standardizing maintenance, and screening tenants. You use some of these systems in order to do that. Your headaches are going to go away. And then I think at the end of the day, when a tenant checks out, you're going to have a nicer, cleaner, less beat up rental property that you don't have to refurb every time a tenant leaves. Next week, we're going to talk about the cost of living comparison of Denton County versus Dallas and Frisco. And the different animals, but we're going to talk about the cost of living comparison in terms of housing and other things between Denton and those two other areas. Until next time, this is Steve with the Rose Realty Team. See ya.